how is it corrected in the future, and what does the new model look like, in your opinion?
But it was really originated by Teilhard de Chardin in the 1950s. And the human nervous system, which gives rise to the brain, which in turn gives rise to the emergence of mind, has really been a metaphor used by writers describing electronic communication for over 150 years. The telegraph was invented in 1851, and just 6 years later, Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote, "The world has become a great vibrating nerve, crossing distance in a breathless moment of time." Then H.G. Wells talked about the global brain. It was Teilhard in the 1950s who came up with what he called the noosphere, or the global mind. But before I turn to that, let me answer the first part of your question. Why has this economic compass that I just talked about persisted? First of all, even though it no longer accurately measures genuine progress, it actually does align with the continued amassing of wealth and power by elites. This may sound a little radical. I don't mean it to, but it is the case. It has persisted also because it's a manifestation of what some would call the QWERTY problem. You know what QWERTY is? QWERTY. That's the layout of the typewriter keyboard. And some of you know this story. It's actually true. In the early days of the typewriter, I was a journalist in an era when we actually used these typewriters. If you typed fast, the keys would jam at the top. Anybody ever done that? Yeah, a few. Okay. Glad this is not such a young audience, but a lot of young people here. But so in order to keep the keys from jamming too much, one of the early designers of the keyboard made it as difficult as possible to hit the keys that are most commonly used, to slow down the typist in order to avoid the jamming of the keys. True story. And the point of the story is that after we switched to electronic keyboards, we didn't need QWERTY. Could we change? No. Because everybody like me had learned QWERTY, and you can type fast with QWERTY. But GDP is what everybody's learned, and not just economists, accountants, business accountants, CFOs, etc. It's a problem. Needs to be changed. Now on to the global mind. Every advance in communications technology has been accompanied by an advance in human civilization, in the complexity and power of civilization, and in the way we as human beings process information. The modern brain, with the neocortex, emerged, they say, roughly 200,000 years ago. And you look at the cave paintings at Chauvet, or 35,000 years ago, their consciousness and artistic sensibility is not very different from ours. But evolution has been less in the structure of the brain and more in the efficacy of the tools that we have used. The spoken word was a revolution in thinking and brain organization, probably 100,000 years ago. The scientists disagree. The written word marked the end of the hunter-gatherer period and the beginning of the agricultural revolution, with the keeping track of crops and surpluses and credits and debits and writing, and we went from stone tablets to papyrus to vellum to paper. And then in the 15th century, in the middle of the 15th century, the print revolution, well documented, of course, marked really the emergence of the modern world, because knowledge that had been restricted to elites was suddenly distributed not in Latin or Greek, but in popular languages in every country to the masses, inspiring a demand for literacy and ultimately leading to the emergence of a virtual public square that replicated the essential features of the Agora in Athens and the Forum in the Roman Republic, and producing the dream that the ancient Greek system of democracy could be reborn in a modern nation state. And the nation state itself came out of this new form of communication. Fast forward through telegraph broadcasting, radio had a totalitarian impulse in Italy and Germany, and television was the big kahuna and still is the big kahuna. Americans watch television 5 hours per day. Astonishing. Older people, my age and older, on average watch it 7 hours per day. Unbelievable. You know, if you played tennis 5, 6, 7 hours a day, you'd develop tremendous muscles. If you ran 5, 6, 7 hours a day, you'd really have leg, calf muscles. It'd be amazing. What muscles are being exercised in sitting on the couch and watching television 5 to 7? Not the democracy muscle. Trust me on this, because it's not a two-way flow of information. It is, the citizenry has become an audience, or more popularly, the consumers. And the trick is to glue their eyeballs to the screen and then feed them with lots of commercial messaging and increasingly corporate issue messaging. When you see all these ads for coal and oil and gas, are they designed to make you go out and say, I want to buy some coal? No. They're designed to make you think, well, these coal companies seem to have their act together. Maybe there's nothing to this climate problem. And these oil companies, they're working hard on renewable energy. Anyway, the net result has been a dampening of democracy. But Act 3 is the internet. Still, shockingly enough, a bit player compared to television, but growing by leaps and bounds, very powerful. And how many people here have a smartphone in your pocket? Okay. How many brought an iPad or iPad mini or like device here this evening? Okay. I mean, look, we're all connected now. And all around the world, out of the 7 billion people, 5 billion have at least access to a mobile phone, about 1 billion to a smartphone, just shy of 1 billion. But Moore's Law, which of course everybody knows drives the cost down and the power up, is making all mobile phones smart over time, and people can gain access to the internet. Now what happens, just as the printed word changed the way we think, just as the phonetic alphabet was associated with the emergence of Greek philosophy and dramatic theater and democracy, in the same way, our connection to this global mind is changing the way we organize our thinking. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had dinner with family or friends and in the midst of a conversation looked up something on a smartphone. Everybody does it now. It is functionally an extension of our brains. And that is not a metaphor. You can do studies, and the scientists have done studies that illustrate how that's actually a new reality. But just to finish this, here's the point that is most compelling to me. The internet will soon displace television as the dominant medium. And unlike television, but like the printing press, it is inherently a two-way exchange. And like the print medium universe, the internet allows individuals to not only retrieve all the wisdom available on the internet, but also to contribute their own thoughts and invite others who resonate with that creative expression or political expression or whatever to cluster around it and to lift it up in the manner of a Google search. And so it is essentially a democratizing influence.